Hi Vandana, thank you so much for speaking with the Indian Weekender.
Oh, our pleasure, thanks.
The government has lately announced a slew of changes to immigration policies. Could you tell us which ones are the big ticket changes?
Okay, yeah, thank you for asking this question. The biggest is having the clarity on the skilled residence pathway. So the skilled migrant category is changing. There would be a more simplified 6-point system for skilled residence pathway. So that's a very big change and something that the migrants are really looking forward to it. So that's one thing. Some changes in the accredited employer work visa policy is another change, wherein the maximum stays somebody would be allowed to be in on a work visa would be 5 years unless the migrant has a clear pathway leading to residence. So these are two major changes that have recently been announced.
So let's talk about the skilled migrant visa. As opposed to the policy that we had so far, what is the big change now?
One really good thing is that there is no cap on the numbers that the yearly numbers that are allowed. So that's the biggest thing, because in the old policy, the one thing which really kept the migrants waiting for long, kept the processing time long, was the cap on the numbers. So good thing is, as many migrants qualify, can keep applying, and immigration will keep giving them residence as soon as they meet the criteria. So that's really one good thing. And another good thing that I see is that the points do not decrease as somebody ages. In the old policy, as you grow old, you got lesser points. So in this policy, you have all the points, and anybody under 55 years of age gets the same point. So that's another good thing that I see out there.
So how does the point system work?
Okay, so just to briefly explain, somebody has to get 6 points to be able to qualify, and then these 6 points could be gathered from either the skilled the points for the skills. It could be for their education, it could be for their occupational registration, or for the salary that they are getting. So from either one of these, they can claim 1 to 6 points. And then they need to have skilled work as well. So that's another big change, because skilled employment has become a kind of a mandatory for somebody to be able to apply for this residence now. So you get 6 points. Let's say you've done a PhD, you get 6 points there, and you have a skilled employment, you can pretty much straight away apply for your residence. Or you have done your master's, you get 5 points from there. You work in skilled employment for a year, you're then eligible to apply. Few things that I feel that the migrants should be very aware of and mindful of is that they should be very sure of the points that they are claiming. A lot of times, if somebody's done a master's, they would feel that they would get 5 points. But then if the NZQA assessment comes out and says, hey, your master's is assessed at level 8, not at level 9, then they are not going to get 5 points. So few complications that can arise is in this space is not really assessing your qualifications correctly. So something that I would convey to all the migrants who are aspiring to apply for these categories, please do act now, because even though the policy starts later in the year, if your assessments have to be done for the NZQ assessment, initiate them now, because if you get lesser points, then you need to have a backup plan. That's one thing. Another thing which really the migrants have to be aware of is whether what they think is their skilled employment is actually skilled employment or not. So fine, salary is very clearly set out there. You need to get median wage rate, so that's okay. But apart from that, ANSCO 1, 2, 3, if your employment is in the ANSCO 1, 2, 3, what does it really mean? Sometimes the migrants may not have that clarity. That is something they cannot really move forward unless they get that assessment done very carefully on that.
And what are the changes to the accredited employer visa?
The accredited employer work visa, the major change is that that the maximum time somebody would be allowed here would be 5 years unless there is a pathway to residence. So I've seen a lot of times, or the employers are a bit unhappy. Sometimes migrants are getting a bit restless on what would happen, because clearly they have been people in the country for long, on work visa, extending it one after the other, and the concern out there is what happens to them. What I see positive in here is that it gives them the opportunity to then see what could be the alternate path for them moving towards residence. If it has to be on upskilling themselves, studying further, let that be. If it has to be getting into some different profession, that's what it would be. But clearly it's not very ideal for the country to have migrants on work visas when kids have grown here, they've made New Zealand their kind of settled home, and then there is no path to residence. So that wasn't really a very fair policy. So this change will definitely be, in long run, good for the migrants, even good for the employers, because then they can work along with their workers to make sure that they have a pathway to residence.
So when does these rules, when do they kick in?
So 29, it's end of September and start of October. These are the 2 dates that we have. So for those who are thinking of applying for this new category of residence visa, this is the time for them to really get their skills assessment done, to see if their qualifications will give them what points do they think of, get their assessment done for their skilled employment, just to make sure that they are in the correct employment, and when the time comes, they are ready to apply. Yeah.
And so those who have come before that cutoff on that visa, which includes me, for instance, what's the future for them when their current term, 3 years or 5 years, expires? Do they then apply under the new rules for the accredited employee visas?
So see, when the announcement has been made, that's the 5 years that they've been set in. How that will be rolled out, if somebody is applied for 3 years, how will that be extended? We still to see, because the instructions have not come out as yet. So once the instructions are out, we'll clearly know how does the 3 to 5 years roll out. But definitely, that there will be an option and a possibility for that.
There's also a lot of talk about parent visas. Where are we at right now?
Okay, so very good thing out there is that very recently immigration has started and rolled out the online expression of interest form for parents category. That was much awaited. It really makes things easier. Before August, just submitting the expression of interest, and then it'll be a draw, like a lottery system. But this expression of interest form, which has recently been initiated, is definitely bringing a respite for parents. Yeah.
And is there certain criteria in that category too, of who can apply for the parents to get a visa?
So we're getting a lot of questions from new residents as well. So one thing that you have to be mindful of is you have to be a resident in New Zealand for 3 years before you can support your parents for this category, apart from meeting the income threshold, so that people are aware of. But apart from that, you have to be a resident for 3 years, and then those who are new residents and they really are wanting the parents to be in the country can consider parent, grandparent, visitor visa as well. So this visa will have a 3-year validity for their parents to come in and out of the country, just so that the family could be together. Yeah.
And the accredited employer work visa has been in the news for the wrong reasons too lately. A lot of people who have been brought in under that category have complained about not getting enough wages that they were promised, or not getting the job at all. Have people approached you? Have you had those kind of experiences yet? And if yes, then what should people be looking out for when they apply under this category?
I would say to all the migrants out there that New Zealand is a country where exploitation is just not okay. So don't keep getting exploited thinking that if you voice out your opinion, it would be adversely impacting your visa conditions. No. So exploitation is definitely not accepted here. So one thing which the migrant should be aware of is that if an employer is hiring them, it's an employer's need first of all. They need somebody to work in the business. And that is why immigration has set certain things which the employers are required to do, be it advertisement, be it a job check, be it getting a job token for the migrant worker. The moment the employer tells the migrant to pay for all those, that means something is not really fair there. So these are kind of red flags out there. So this is what the employer is required to do. And then from the first salary, if they're not getting paid for what they were signed up for, immediately need to raise alert. It's not accepted at all. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking with us. And thank you for sharing those valuable insights.
Most welcome. My pleasure. And just a word out there for migrants. Just prepare yourself, put your right foot forward, get the assessments done on time. And yeah, really happy with these changes.
All right.
Thank you.